Hello lovely people, in today's video I'm going to run you through what you need to take for a 100km bike ride. So this video is actually part of my Women's 100 YouTube series, so if you want to know how to prepare for 100 kilometers, be sure to check out the other videos in that playlist. I'll leave them up here. Big thanks as well to the folks at Canyon and Rafa for helping making this series possible. If you'd like to help my channel and you're enjoying the video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification and leave a big fat like on this video. So in this video I'm going to break down what you need to take on your 100km bike ride into 3 sections. First up is nutrition, second up repair kit, and third is stuff for emergencies. So let's get started with nutrition. I've got 5 tips for you. Tip number 1 is to work out how many hours you're going to do and at what intensity. The average cyclist needs between 60 and 120 grams of carbs per hour. That's a lot of carbs, bearing in mind that, you know, your average banana is around 15 to 20 grams of carbs, so you're talking 3 bananas an hour. That's a lot of bananas. So if your ride is actually shorter than 90 minutes, you can get away with not eating, but anywhere past the hour-and-a-half mark, you're going to actually be burning into your muscles, which is not something you want to do. If you want to gauge on that 60 to 120 grams of carbs, 120 grams of carbs is, for example, more a race intensity, whereas a 60 grams of carbs would be, you know, your zone 1, the zone 2 ride. I am about 60 kilograms, so I could get away with that sort of 60 grams an hour, but if you're someone who is larger, you have more muscle, then you need to up that to roughly a gram of carbs per body weight. So if you're 80 kilograms, 80 grams of carbs for your lower intensity ride. Hope that makes sense. Tip number 2 is to take real food. You can actually get away with having gels and bars, but if you're doing 100Ks or any kind of longer distance ride, it's really going to upset your stomach if you're only having gels and bars. So for me, my favourite things to take are rice cakes. I know that Chris Hall, one of my friends, takes roast potatoes, would you believe? You can also take little sandwiches or Serene or something like that. There's loads of different options. One of my favourite books is Feed Zone Portables. This gives you loads of tips, tricks, recipes, and helps you break down a little bit more of the science on how many grams of carbs you need and stuff for the different types of training you're doing. So I'll leave a link to that book down in the description below. Tip number 3 is to eat and drink little and often. Consistency is the key, and if you're getting little chunks of energy throughout your ride, it's going to help sustain you much better than getting 40 minutes, an hour in and realising you've not eaten anything. Tip number 4 leads on nicely from tip number 3, and that is to eat and drink before you're hungry, before you're thirsty. This is so key, and so many people get this wrong and end up hitting the dreaded bonk, which is what us cyclists call basically running out of energy. So often when you're cycling, especially if you're doing a 100km ride, you're doing 3-4 hours, an endurance ride, if you don't eat in those first couple of hours, it is going to catch you up in the last few hours. So you need to be eating consistently throughout the start of your ride, and in fact I often even weight the food more in the first half of the ride than the second half. So tip number 5 is, once you're back, make sure you're getting in a protein shake or a really good, well-balanced meal within 1 hour of finishing. Getting it in quickly means that your muscles, your body is going to have all the nutrients and energy it needs to repair itself and recover. If you eat properly out on the bike and you eat properly when you get back, you're not going to end up being completely ravenous. I have been guilty myself of going out on a ride, not eating enough, and then coming back and absolutely binging the cupboards, the fridge. There are no snacks left after you do that. So the best way for your body and your health is to eat more on the bike and just eat your normal meal when you get back. Next up, we have the repair kit. This is an essential part of your training tool bag, and it's going to make sure that you're not stuck when you're out on the road. So I actually did a more in-depth video on this, which you can check out. I'll leave the link card above, which goes more into depth about the kind of stuff that I take, but I'm just going to quickly go over my top 5 things that are in my saddlebag. First up, the most obvious one is an inner tube. Second is a puncture repair kit. the most common mechanical you're going to face when you're out training is a flat tyre. So having stuff so that you can change that is going to be really helpful. Number 3 is actually a £5 note. I've had it before where I've actually split my tyre whilst out on a training ride, and if you have a £5 note, you can actually put it between the inner tube and the tyre just to get you home and make sure you're not going to get any more punctures in the part of your tyre that's weakened. Not everyone knows about it, but it is a handy tip. I also bring a chain link. It's very rare that you would have any problems with your chain, but if your chain snaps, you're not going to be able to get home. So having a power link with you is going to make sure you can get home. Next up, I bring rubber gloves. The reason for this is because if it's terrible weather, which let's be honest, in the UK it is quite a lot, your tyre is going to be covered in all the things that are on the road, with mud and God knows what. So having some rubber gloves is going to help keep your hands clean and make it much, much easier to get the job of changing a puncture done. The final thing that I do as well is I have a plastic bag in there. I usually use this to put in the inner tube that is punctured so that I don't forget which one is actually punctured. Lastly, we have the emergency stuff. There's not loads you need to take, but I would recommend having your phone fully charged up and also taking some money. If you've got your phone on you, you're going to be able to call for help if you get stuck, and I personally have ended up in situations where I've run out of energy, I've completely bonked, and I need to dash into a petrol station to get some emergency Coca-Cola, sugar, basically whatever, just to get me from where I am to home again. Being able to call someone or buy an emergency can of Coke can literally be a lifesaver. I would also recommend 3 cycling safety apps. The first is Busby, the second is What 3 Words, and the third is the Garmin Incident Detection. I've actually left a link down below to all those apps and a little bit more about them, and I've actually made a more in-depth video on Busby, the cycling safety app, which you can watch up here. So that's it for today's video. If you have anything that you take on a ride that I didn't mention in this video, be sure to leave a comment down below so that we can all share the knowledge. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, and I will see you in the next video. Keep risking it for a biscuit. Woo-hoo!